If you think of Hamilton, you're likely to think about a field watch. After all, they're among the most versatile types of watches around. By revamping their flieger-inspired Khaki Aviation Pilot, however, including a new case size, the brand is hoping to bring the pilot's watch aesthetic to the everyday wearer as well. Let's start with the change that'll be most obvious at the first glance, at least in the 42mm size. Gone is the full-day display that spanned the top of the dial, with the complication moved to the more conventional 3 o'clock position. Now, this isn't the first time the Khaki Aviation Pilot opted for this layout, as it previously appeared on the huge 46mm models. Think of it like Hamilton using the dial of the 46mm in the case of the 42mm. The entire look of the dial is simplified as well, with printed numerals preferred over applied ones, and the inner hour scale now just a ring of numbers. The triangle at 12 o'clock points up, as is the custom with flieger-style watches, and the minute track has been moved to a wide reort. The 36mm variant is essentially a scaled-down version of its larger sibling, minus the day-date aperture at 3 o'clock. The handset is also smaller, though not by very much, and it consists of semi-skeletonized sword hands and an arrow-tipped central seconds hand. The effect is actually really quite good here, as the hour hand frames the numeral printed on the dial below thanks to its skeletonized tip. A closer look, however, reveals that the reort helps with adding some much-needed depth that was lost with the exclusion of applied numerals, as the main dial portion is quite flat. But let's talk about the dial colors. The 4 36mm references offer a choice of 2 sunbursts or a shiny black. The 42mm day date opt for the matte green you see here, as well as a blue and silver, all with white day and date discs. You know what though, I'd really like a color matched or at least nicely framed date though. It makes sense for a pilot's watch, inspired by the World War II era pieces, to wear bigger than their size suggests. And the same goes for both sizes of the Khaki Aviation Pilot. Now for starters, the 36mm is actually 36.6mm in diameter, with a thickness of 11.4mm and a lug-to-lug of 45.1mm. Now, on smaller wrists, it probably wears more like a 38 to a 39mm watch, and thanks to the bulging caseback and downturned lugs, it has plenty of presence as well. The Aviation Pilot day date doesn't quite scale to the same effect, as its measurements of 42.6mm in diameter, 12.5mm in thickness, and 51mm lug-to-lug feel more proportional. And the long lug-to-lug doesn't impact the on-wrist experience as much as the smaller model. Having said that, I would imagine needing bigger wrists to pull this one off. In terms of case finishing, Hamilton does away with the wide polished surfaces on the sides of the case that were present in the older Aviation Pilot. The result is a very simple, fully brushed look, save for a small polished ring at the base of the sloped bezel and the bead-blasted crown with a polished H logo. If you are familiar with the older version of the Aviation Pilot, you'll be familiar with this bracelet as well. Notably, the central links actually stand out from the rest of the bracelet, with polished bevels all round. Its finishing seems more detailed than the case itself. The clasp is well constructed, and the closure has a satisfying click when you snap it together. The 3 holes of micro adjustment are definitely welcome, if maybe lacking 1 or 2 more. Though what would really set this bracelet apart is toolless micro adjustment and screws maybe instead of push pins. One change that's certainly welcome in the new Aviation Pilot is the selection of the much improved leather straps. Now in the 36mm size, the pink and white straps have a heavily textured finish, while the 42mm pieces go for an aged look, all with quick release spring bars for easy exchanging. With 18mm and 20mm lug widths though, swapping to an aftermarket strap should not be an issue. Now, as is customary with most Hamiltons at this price point, both sizes sport derivatives of the ETA C07 movement. The H10 and the H30 feature Nivacron balance springs and class-leading 80-hour power reserves. The H10 is a great fit for the smaller 36mm case, as it fills out most of the caseback. though the H30 looks a little bit small in the larger model. Rather unfortunately, the Khaki Aviation Pilot makes a good case for a closed caseback, as the movements are completely undecorated. Now I wonder whether Hamilton would manage to shave off another 0.5mm in thickness with a closed caseback. Something to think about. Now if I was to sum up the collection as a whole, I'd say it's a simplification of the Khaki Aviation Pilot that brings it closer to its pilot's watch inspiration. I'm really glad that the current and much needed downsizing trend across numerous brands means that we get actual compact options that don't get a worse movement. My pick, unsurprisingly, goes to the black-dialed 36mm Khaki Aviation Pilot, which was one of the variants that we got our hands on prior to the launch. Though I would love to see a return of applied numerals and a more compelling bracelet. Now, compared to flieger-inspired pieces that hardly distinguish themselves, the newly revised Khaki Aviation Pilot has enough going on for it to stand out, especially now that there's a choice in terms of sizing. The Hamilton Khaki Aviation Pilot is available now and it starts at $1,600 Australian dollars with full pricing details in the description. Now, what do you think about these new releases though? Is downsizing the right direction for the Khaki? Let us know in the comments below. Hey, and if you've enjoyed this video and you've not yet subscribed to Time+Tide, well, it's the easiest way moving forward that you can support us making more great content just like this on the Time+Tide channel. I'll see you on the flip side.